Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Send and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. I try not to take too long on this one, but I'm not telling you any of this to brag or to boast, but I am going to tell you this so that you understand that you're not abandoned. When you decide that you are going to do something that is honest and righteous, you're not being abandoned. Human beings are going to have a problem with that and they're going to try to fight you in many ways, but I want you to know that you're not going to face abandonment from God. I have been, and it comes with the territory, being a teacher, I've been falsely accused. And I'm talking nasty accusations. Especially happens if you're a male teacher, even here. And I found out today that I got a student that's doing it again. Now, every single time one of these accusations comes out, it's false. Every time. Ain't nothing nasty about how I work. Now, he has a complaint that is valid. I cracked a mean joke at his expense, and I would do it again because he's always interrupting the class for something that has nothing to do with English. And it's something I told him that he could fix before he goes to class. Stop bothering, interrupting me about that. But the mean joke was not illegal and it was not sexual in nature, but he added to the valid complaint, he added this lie that I made a reference to his private parts. No, the F I didn't. Didn't cross my mind. In a classroom setting with all the other students present, at a job I actually enjoy, the first time I've ever had this much support in my life at my work, in a country where I am safe, safer than I've ever been in all the previous years of my life. And I would risk that. This kid wants to go to another section to get another professor who's not going to make him do as much work. He's also at a higher risk of failing the exit exam that he has to take if he gets what he wants, because what he wants ain't good for him in the long run. I'm not telling you this to worry you, and I didn't tell the rest of my students this to worry them. I told my students that there was this accusation so that they understood that when they say to me, hey, please dismiss class early or cancel class that day or mark some of us present when we're absent, that I cannot do stuff like this. I couldn't do it before, and now I'm under scrutiny, so I can't do it, so they can't even ask. It's ridiculous. I told them you can't even ask that right now. Somebody made this stuff up. Of course I'm going to be investigated, and that's okay. It's nothing personal. That's how the system works. But you can't ask me to turn around and not do my job even when I'm not being investigated. How much less so now that I am? Don't do that. Don't even ask. Because if they're listening in to me through one of these cameras here, we got these whiteboards in class and they could activate a mic in there. I said, they're listening to me through this mic over here. And you ask, even if they don't know who it is that asks. What if they turn the camera on to see who's asking this stuff? See the video, and there you are, the doctor, doing all this stuff with the hand signal. Let us go, let us go. Then they come and they kick your butt out. Then what? Maybe you fail by 1 point. You do a grade appeal, but they find this out. They're looking and saying, well, that student, yeah, we know how he acts. He's not getting his grade appeal. He failed. He's going to repeat the class and pay us more money. That's how they are. So I was telling the students what they needed to know. But because the law does not punish integrity, the students began to take my side and they wanted to know which one of their classmates was a rat bastard liar. They want to beat him and kill him. And I had to tell them I'm not allowed to tell y'all, especially because he's from a previous semester. I had to lie. That was where I had to be corrupt, to lie, to protect the life of the lying student. They're going to find out anyway, because that student's about to sit up here and try to ask some others to get in on it and say this, that, and the other. And I said to them, look, you guys don't have to worry about defending or anything like that. I thank you, and I do appreciate that support. But I'm not telling you guys so that you get bothered to have bad dreams and nightmares and stuff like that. I'm just telling you so that you understand that I got to do my job anyway. And now I really got to do it. So you can't ask me to not do my job. Can't do that. But what I can tell you, when I'm telling you and this audience, is that you don't regret righteousness or integrity. So if you cultivate that where you are while you have to live there, and then you leave with a polished integrity from practicing it, you make quite the positive splash wherever you land. And it has a ripple effect. I know I've been in places where it's had a ripple effect. I've been in places where I've just simply had extra integrity because I expected to be observed, or where I've had it because I signed an agreement. And one thing I do try to do is keep my promises and not cheat anybody, or because I was paid. And from these things, from these motives, I learned that, you know what, if you sit up and just taking seriously integrity, basic integrity, uh, regarding agreements that you make with people, and just not cheating people and not cheating them out of any rights they have over you, just that, you know what, if people start saying, that's actually a good idea. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to take this more seriously in my job. And I say that because I observed it. Now, they might not be willing to learn as much from each other, but they know I traveled many miles to come here. And it's like that with many people across the world. It's not like that with people in the States. Not as much. But in other places, when you have traveled a long distance to get there, not only do they appreciate that sort of visit, but understand when you bring a hell of a character with you on top of that, they say, now somebody really brought something that's worthwhile. Believe you me, people will do that. They'll say it, and people will do what they can to help. Trust you me. People will sit up and they will say, I mean, in all honesty, if you're a Muslim and you go to Durban, South Africa with that, some of the dads will sit up and say, listen, come after Juma this Friday, come eat lunch at my house. Don't make any extra plans. And their daughter comes and brings the food out so that you can see her. Because they want somebody like you for their daughter. Now understand this, really righteous fathers will look for good men for their daughters. Moses' father-in-law was like that. The prophet Moses, peace be to him, had a father-in-law that was like that. He was looking for someone like Moses for his daughter. Moses showed up, protected the women that were at the well and being bullied. The dad heard about it. And he said to the daughters, what you think about this stranger that protected y'all? And one of the daughters said, that's a righteous man. And when I took him here, he walked in front of me because so as to not, be checking me out and stuff like that. That's an upright man, and he's strong. He don't let he doesn't let anybody bully anybody else. That's how we got all this water at the wells. And the father was like, I see that you like this man. So let me go ahead and, hook you up, do you a solid, daughter. That's what winds up being the case when you take that integrity. Believe you me, there are materialistic fathers out there. And you don't blame dads for some of the materialism, but you have dads that all they feel like is their daughter's a princess. She should never have to go through no kind of hardship. So they don't really, they look down on you because of what you don't have that does exist. But there are other dads that look and they say, well, you ain't poor, you ain't broke, you're not going to cause her to suffer, financially speaking. That's good. But you got integrity, you righteous. That is what I want for her. And mind you, the rest of the world not being like the US and the UK and Canada, the women aren't going to look and say, well, daddy likes him, so something's wrong with him. Ugh, he's disgusting because daddy approves. They don't think that way. They're like, let me get this straight. He's black and my dad likes him. So you mean I get to have a black man that dad brought to me, not me having to bring it? Oh, man. And he's righteous. Yeah, dad, sign me up. I'm not saying it's going to always happen, but there comes a point where it does. What I'm really getting at here, though, the main crux of what I'm getting at, that's just an example of what I'm getting at. The main crux of what I'm getting at is that you are going to find yourself supernaturally protected, even when people oppose you. Sometimes you will suffer negative consequence and the vindication comes later. But if you are exercising a good character, even when there's pressure not to, you will not regret that. That's what I wanted you to understand. That's why I'm recording this. When I told the students what I was telling them, which was really to explain why I don't even want them asking me to not be on the straight and narrow at the job anymore. And they began to get really supportive. They were like, oh, we find that we're going to get them. There was a conversation that one of the students, the most supportive student, came to me and he said to me later on, I'm glad that there are people like you that come here, and here's why. He told me a story about a police officer who retired 10 years ago. This police officer retired about the time that I got into this country. Back then, it was more corrupt than it is now. Now, it was a functioning society, don't get me wrong, but there were certain levels of corruption that were just understood. Just understood. Police were not dangerous, but the police force had more corruption in it than what it has now. There was no anti-corruption commission as of yet. That was put in place later, as far as I know. The officer retired from a high position with the police force. He was collecting, it had to be more than 15,000 US dollars a month from his position. Now imagine that, a fourth of a U.S. Police officer's salary, and he was collecting it, a fourth of the annual salary he was collecting each month. He was very well paid. Then he retired 10 years ago. You think, okay, this is it. He's retired. He's home free. He's scot-free. He just sits at home now and just enjoys what he's worked to build. Do you know that they recently came to his house and served an arrest warrant on him, picked him up, put him behind bars because of bribes that he took while he was in office? Somehow he got caught for these bribes decades later. And now what they're trying to do is find out, did he extort people to get these bribes, or did he just take what he was offered? From what the student told me, if they find out that he shook people down to get the bribes, they're going to kill him. If he was offered bribes and he just took them, he's going to sit in prison. But they're going to have to go back through records of 10 years. They already know that he took bribes. They were able to prove that a lot of his property that he had amassed came from this. They were able to prove that. Now they just want to know, did he solicit the brother, like show up at people and say, I'm going to do this to you if you don't pay me? Or did they offer him money and he took it? What's it? What is it? Which one of those two is it? That's it. The student was telling me at the end of class, I'm glad that we're getting people like you coming here because it makes it better for people that are honest. And he said, the government is going to back you up. What he was trying to tell me in a nutshell was, once there's evidence that you are innocent, the government's going to back you up if they get involved. And right now, the kid's just trying to get moved to a different section where he doesn't have to do as much work. But the point is that with witnesses, that I never said nothing like that, if it comes to that, what he was saying is the government's going to back me up. That I don't need to worry about the same thing that happened before in another city happening again to the same level, because things are changing. And I can tell you honestly, even though when I first got here, catching cheaters and turning them in was considered dangerous, and people were saying, stop doing that. You're making other people's job hard. You can make things hard for yourself. Ain't nobody going to care. When people were telling me that, what wound up being the case was that I don't regret it. Now here I am at this job where they want me to be honest and stop cheaters. And it's the best gig I've had since I got in the country. And every gig I've had in this country is better than any teaching job I ever had in the U.S. Any one of them. And now here I am. Here. With the best job I got. The best job that I have had, period. Loving it, enjoying it. If I had given in to the pressure when I first got here, I wouldn't have this gig now. And not only that, but if this kid manages to convince a bunch of people and I wind up in so much trouble I can't even record and upload again, I'm still not going to regret that I at least did my job and didn't do the stuff he said. I'm not going to regret it. Here's why. Because in the end, mankind might punish it. And they're not interested in that. But God ain't going to punish that. He ain't going to punish integrity. He's not going to. I don't even think this kid lying is really trying to get me in trouble. He just wants to get into another section. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not sure. I go into work tomorrow and everything's fine. And maybe they kept him in my section and won't move him. I could go in and they moved him to quiet him, shut him up. I could go in tomorrow and they turn around and move me and say, you know what? He seems believable. I don't know how, but if that does wind up being the case, since liars have been believed before, I'm still not going to regret that I went in, did my job, didn't give out free grades, and I tried to prepare students for not just the English exams at the university, but any English exam they might take. I tried. I'm not going to regret that. If I did face major punishments and tribulations because this kid lied, at least I'll be in a position to ask God for his help because I didn't provoke this. It's late now, and despite the uncertainty, one thing I can say is that I can sleep tonight. Not because I feel like nothing bad is ever going to happen. It's not that. But because my conscience is clear and I've been protected by God before when people lied. There was a time when I was presented with an opportunity to lie on an enemy of mine. We were already enemies. He lied on me from what someone told me. And I was presented with an opportunity to tell the same lie and be believed. Only this time on him. And I decided not to do it. And again, I'm not saying this to brag. I'm simply saying this to say that this happened before I left the kingdom. And since I've come to the kingdom and people have tried lying on me, I've had this supernatural protection. We know who did that. And I give him all thanks and praise. I'm saying that to say that he's not punishing righteousness or integrity. I'm not even righteous. I'm just trying to be honest. Righteousness is above what I am. I'm just trying to be honest. That's all. At least not corrupt. At least that. And look how he rewards and protects that. And I want you to know he'll do the same for you. Cultivate it while you're in the States and bring that shining character with you elsewhere. And you'll be shocked at what it is that people will be willing. You'll be shocked at what comes from that. That's what I wanted you to understand. No matter who tries to stand against you for it, God ain't going to let you regret it. I hope that what I've said is a benefit, and I really do appreciate you listening. And as I said, if there's been any message I've recorded that's been worth you hitting the share button, this is one of them. As always, black heart, black mind, blackout, assalamu alaikum, black heterosexual, non-select male power because they don't like it, black patriarchy until extinction of judgment day. Thank you for flying with us again here on Jet Black Airways, where the phrase jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us till the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender, justice, forever.